prior to the close of tonight's meeting. Once that response is mailed, you'll have 30 days to file what is known as a contested case hearing request. And in that request, you'll have to identify in what way you are specifically affected by the permit in ways that are uncommon to the general public. And the RTC will explain how to do that, who to send it to, how to submit that. At that point, we will then prepare a response to those requests. We file that with the commission. The commission will then hear the item at an agenda date far in the future. They will assess all those persons who have requested a contested case hearing, determine if they're affected persons, and then if they've raised referable issues under our jurisdiction, they will then refer that case to the Office of Administrative Hearings to conduct the contested case hearing. And at that hearing, the administrative law judge will assess the evidence, propose a recommendation of the commission, and the commission will then ultimately decide whether to grant or deny the permit. And just to clarify, if you want to request a contested case hearing, you have had to have filed comments prior to the end of tonight's meeting. They can be oral or they can be written, but the hearing request has to be in writing. It cannot be oral. You have to actually submit that in writing, but you don't have to do that specific thing tonight. You can wait until the RTC, the response to comments, is mailed. Thank you all very much.
We're starting the formal comment session. If you'd like to come up to us after the comment session is over, we can talk a little bit more about that. We need to get people's comments on that.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start the formal comment session. I'm going to go through the process real quick of how this section is going to work. So the individuals will present their oral statements when called upon in the order that the registrations were received. I will be calling the individuals in groups of 5. There will be a 3-minute time limit to ensure that everyone can provide their statements. A visual 1-minute warning sign will be shown to allow the person speaking time to summarize their final statements. Please make sure to speak directly into the microphone, and please state your first and last name before starting your comments, because we are recording for the official record. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. The first group of 5 is going to be Ed Harris, Warren Don, Richard Hillier, Brandon Kuhn, and Anna Goodwin.
My name is Ed Harris. I started a group on Facebook called the Friends of Dry Como Creek to fight the Meyer Ranch back in 2015. The TCEQ negotiated a settlement with us. SOA document 582-16-2586, TCEQ document 2015-1624-MWD. I am the only groundwater well monitored for the Meyer Ranch. My well has E. coli in it. My well has total coliform bacteria in it. When these are found, a second sample is taken. When the second sample comes back, it's miraculously negative. I asked the Meyer Ranch to put a chlorinator on my well. They refused. They don't think it's their problem. The way this works is the TCQ does not, people are asking about the sampling. It's the operator of the plant, who's out of Woodlands, Texas, which is by Houston, that takes the samples. They do it per the permit. It's once a year. There are 2 wells on the Meyer Ranch that are also sampled. I see their reports as well. Those wells come up negative when mine comes up positive. They've tried shutting off their TLAC plant and waiting a few weeks, and it still comes back positive. So on my property taxes last year, I got a $10,000 discount because I was able to show that the TCEQ is lax You're giving a permit, yet you're asking Region 13 off of Judson Road, who handles 15 counties, for me to file a complaint with them because the Meyer Ranch won't take care of putting a chlorinator on my well. Good luck, that's like waiting on the Maytag repair guy. I have Senate Bill 2292. That's what built the Meyer Ranch. In that bill, it's connected to the permit settlement that I did. That's the only way they were able to build the Meyer Ranch. You guys granted the mud. That's why I asked about if this is going to be a mud or a PUD. Como County denied the mud. The TCEQ granted the mud. The developer went around the citizens of Como County. The people here have to understand the process. It's not connected to them. When you sit in court, the TCEQ sits on the side of Doug Harrison. They don't sit on the side of the people that are here. To enforce what you're permitting, I shouldn't be the one to tell you, you need to be looking at your operators. Don't be looking for something that comes over the web in a DMR report. You should be actively monitoring some guy, in this particular case, Doug Harrison, I guess is going to be a sewer treatment operator, and monitor it, because you're not, because I shouldn't have E. coli in my water. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Warren Dane, and I am a proud owner of a condo on the Cornell River, and just frankly had to be scared to death. 2 or 3 years ago, our local utility company, NBU, granted permission for a plant for a subdivision off 1863, and I believe it was 281. And the dignitaries from NBU, when it was completed, had a picture in the paper of all 3 of them standing there holding a glass of water, which sounded perfect. Except I swim in the Comel River in the mornings, and I don't care if the discharge is artesian water. There is little pods in the morning, sometimes hundreds of them, sometimes thousands. And on these little pods, or in these little pods, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of bubbles. That's after that comes through the dry Cornell Creek. But if you walk above that, the water is clear. So that's very aesthetically unappealing. Nobody really wants to jump in the water with that feature. And the other thing is, when it rains for the Comel Creek, they get an overflow from the dry Comel Creek, and after the rain has subsided, we're still getting a flow from the dry Comel Creek, so the river continues to stay murky. Once the flow from the dry Comel Creek stops, then the Comel River clears up. But nobody really wants to be in the water as long as that dry Comel Creek is discharging. And again, it doesn't make any difference how clean the water is. It's just a fact of life that it will ruin the Comel River just by nothing more than just making it so mercury. And New Brunswick has been known for its pristine rivers. They advertise it all the time. That is certainly what we do for it. Thank you.
My name is Dave Hillier. I live on the Como River, 393 Guadalcoma. And I'm glad I came here tonight because I came here not knowing a lot. But I'm impressed with the amount of research that the people have done here and the things that they've opened our eyes to some of the problems that have been created. I look at this way at this point. Your job is just to say the water that's coming out is okay. And there's no really effective the residual problems that are involved, that possibly, when you approve this, people will sell their land, and then another one will pop up, and then another one will pop up, and then another one will pop up. And you say, well, 600,000 is no problem, but multiply that times how many, we don't know. And like the gentleman said before me, when that water comes down to the dry canal, when we have a flood, the city issues a notice saying, don't go on the water, okay? It sure is. But if that's continuously happening, then it's a problem all the time. And we have multiples of that with another plant and another plant. And then it becomes a huge problem. But no, y'all approved it. Y'all approved the water coming out. You've got to look. As old as I am, you look at cause and effect. You don't look what's happening today. You look what happens down the road on this. And it's your responsibility, I feel, to look at everything that's involved here with that, and not just, okay, the water's coming out is okay. Now there's another problem. We have a problem with testing right now within the city. We can't get adequate testing of the Comal as it exists today. They want to test it in some parts, but not in other parts. And if we're having trouble with that testing, then what we're going to have here, if y'all's testing is not adequate and is not timely enough to control this. The way I look at this is that with the problems, why can't the developer just develop a system to use that water continuously? Why dump it anywhere? Why not? Because it's more expensive, I'm sure, to do it that way. But that's the way you solve the problem, not by putting it on us at our expense so that you can make money on the development of that land. Fool me once, shame on me, on you. Fool me twice, which we've seen in this situation, shame on us, shame on us. So think about these things that these people are bringing to you tonight. And I'm hoping that they do create a formal complaint in these cases, and that we do have a hearing. Because it's important you look at the whole ball of wax, not just within your little world. Thank you.
My name is Brandon Kuhn. I live on the Frozen Ranch, and I've been exploring caves for many years. And what I have here is basically a map. I don't know if y'all have this. I call it the mega map. It shows cave clusters of caves and sinkholes from natural rich caverns moving in the direction of Harrison and Bolton with increasing intensity in terms of density of sinkholes per however you measure it. So basically a lot of sinkholes. But legally I cannot release this. You might have it, I don't know. So I can't go into this, but I have something that's I think more powerful. And it has to do with the canal itself, the dry canal. It's actually not dry. It's kind of like God made a joke, dry Canal Creek. There is water flowing underneath there all the time, and there are 4 tributaries, or not tributaries, but springs. And I'm going to give a website at the end of my little few minutes here. So basically, the first one, where the water, the underground river under the dry canal, pops up on the Heartland Ranch. It's viewable on Google Earth. It's about 300 feet long, 70 feet wide, and a picture of that is viewable on the website, which I'll do in a moment. I'm going to put it off the trail. The second one is close to the Wildlife Ranch. Basically, as the Canal Creek curves to the east, it is not viewable by satellite. It is much smaller. The third one is at the intersection of the Dry Canal and Loop 337. And if you go in past all the Caviezel, going past the Caviezel, you will find a lot of water there, and that's viewable on Google Earth. The fourth and final spring is Comal Springs, or Atlantic Springs, whatever you want to call it. That's the fourth and final time that it comes up. So there's actually water flowing underneath there. My point is this: water has no prejudice and it has no bias. It doesn't care. So if you put nutrients in the water and send it down, then you're sending nutrients down the river. If you put Kool-Aid, say 600,000 gallons of Kool-Aid, into the water and send it down, your bronchos will get Kool-Aid. If you change that Kool-Aid into, say, carcinogens and fecal matter, whatever, then we're sending that downstream, and the water will not be prejudiced. It will not be, I'm taking this, I'm not taking that. Water will absorb whatever you give it. So I'm just saying, be careful. Technically, I'm neutral on this, but I'm just saying to be careful. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Website, GuadalupeCaverns.com. It should be second picture down at the top. They let me put that on today. Thank you to them.
Thank you.
Been given a 2-month reprieve by TCEQ against the developer coming in and starting his 1,800 home development. The wastewater effluent is destined to go on my property. If the amendment to the wastewater permit is approved, he'll have to reuse all the water. I'm just saying that as a precursor. Thank you for thinking that you're going to get permission to reuse the water. Thank you for everyone who showed up at this meeting. I have a septic tank at my personal property with an alarm on it. When the alarm goes off, it means that the aerator pump has conked out, and it does that routinely. It runs on electricity, and it's a little fan and everything, and it's part sprayed and everything. So I have to order a person to come out and replace it. It takes time. During the time when I'm waiting, the wastewater is not being treated properly in my septic tank. So I'm really not being compliant because it's not good when it sprays out on the sprayer field or anything. And I'm just using it as an example of something that's going right. That's how normal septic tanks work. But we have a triple problem with waste treatment plants. They're run by electricity. Anybody notice that they have blackouts these days from storms? And we're told by the electric company to expect blackouts this summer because we won't have enough electricity for the Como County. And saying that not only should the wastewater treatment plant have a generator, but lots of fuel to back up that generator, and a person in charge all 24 hours a day to make sure that the treatment plant is working properly. I think you said it was a good one. I know Myers Ranch is not good. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was the first set of 5.
I think you called my name because I was using the ladies' room, but I'm on the list, Nancy Ford.
Nancy Ford. So I'm calling them in groups of 5 with the order that I received them.
All right.
So if you submitted a,
I just checked off I haven't had a comment.
okay. So you're on the list. I'll call you up, please. Thank you. So the next group of 5 that I have is Don Carnes, Chris Hopman, John Spence, Jerry and Nancy Ford, Sydney McGee. Don Collins is the first person to have.
Here,
So Don Collins. Okay, so the next person I have is Chris Hoffman.
Good evening, my name is Chris Hoffman. I live here in Coleman County on the other side of the proposed Vulcan quarry. And my biggest observation, and this is after many meetings with TCEQ and the general public, is number one, I don't think either you have the authority to make comments, or that we have the right people here to answer technical questions. Okay? Make an observation, right or wrong. I think y'all need to come better prepared to answer technical questions. Okay? We didn't come here to throw questions out to be told that basically, well, we'll answer it later or put it in a comment. Okay? Do us a courtesy and have your act together when we have these meetings. Okay? The same thing happened in Romford when we had a meeting of 800 people. You know, we don't come here to be told to go to a website. Okay? So much for that. I don't believe that TCEQ is following the intent of the EPA on any subject. Okay? The gentleman earlier that did field inspections, when you're talking about making inspections, and you're in your own world, okay, don't get me wrong. When you're making inspections every 3 to 5 years, you're not serious about doing inspections. You're waiting for the general public to make comments that you go out and address, okay? Not the way it should be done. You know it, I know it. Scientists know it, engineers know it, but you're doing nothing to solve those issues. Now, the higher-ups, either in TCEQ or the EPA, need to address these things. The cumulative effects that this gentleman brought up here earlier have been talked about on air permits, water permits, and everything else, and I have yet to hear an actual answer of what you're doing to solve any of them. Okay? Now, it's disappointing that we have situations like this come up, and Mr. Harrison is very free to do what he wishes with his property. Okay? His idea and mine of trying to keep the properties around here in generally the same state as we buy them, to keep the natural countryside should be adhered to. High-density subdivisions ought to be in cities, not out in the general county. So I ask you to please come with more data, correct data. I'd like you to work tighter with the EPA, or I'm going to ask the EPA to take over TCEQ. Okay? Not because I don't like the people at TCEQ, it's that you're not doing the job. Okay? Plain and simple, everybody knows it, guys. Let's wake up. You got a lot of people here counting on you to do your job, and you're not. My time's up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a John Spence?
I wasn't really aware of a lot of the details until today, and being at this hearing has really been helpful to kind of discover how strange this is. I'm really amazed that no more of a study has been done with the karst in the middle of an area like this. First of all, I want you guys to realize that we're not just talking about a river in Texas. We're talking about the Comal River. It was first discovered by wildlife and then by the first Native Americans, the Spaniards, the Mexicans, and then the Germans recognized it as a place where settlers could thrive with the abundance of the clean, crystal flowing water. They had found the largest spring in the Southwest. The largest, which created the shortest river in this hemisphere, the Comal River. Today, the Comal River supports New Braunfels with millions of dollars from those who come to float its crystal waters, or maybe just fish or just relax along its banks. The Comal has suffered many abuses, it still does with trash and farm and city runoff. But give it a few days and it renews itself with its spring-fed source. What we have is not just a local treasure, not even a state treasure, it's a national treasure. I want you guys to realize what river you're talking about affecting. And I want you to realize that it's not just another river. Permitting the use of the Comal to handle treated waste will not stop with this and will create a precedent for further development. I understand that there's already been approval at another. We want to back that up. We want to get something going to protect these springs and this river. We're within 6.5 miles from this spot of one of the largest cave systems in the state. There are caves all over this area, and I'm just astonished that you guys have not done a complete survey of the caves and the recharge zone. Limestone is not a good water filter. Unless a karst survey is done for the entire length of the dry Comal, you are likely to feed wastewater directly into the aquifer. A national treasure is in your hands. I want you to think about that. It's something you may have to live with and regret for the rest of your life if you don't make the right decision tonight.
Thank you. Nancy first.
My name is Nancy Ford, and I live in New Braunfels. And I can see the Comal River from our front yard, but I back up to the Garwood River. We all have a feeling, strong feeling, and we kind of accept that TCEQ is going to grant this permit. But somewhere along the way tonight, there was a little glimmer of hope when this young lady over here said she was sorry. She intended to tell us something that was really important. But we also know that intent is not quite enough either. So I'm looking at you, and I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but you can make a huge difference here by ensuring that Mr. Harrison reuses and discharges this wastewater onto his own property. That makes a big difference. It may not make everybody happy, but it makes me feel better if he could use it for a golf course or green parks or something, and not discharge it into all of this other fragile spaces that we're discussing here tonight. So I feel real strong about that. He's creating a huge subdivision, and we're seeing it happen everywhere. But that would help an awful lot. So take your intent and push it where it needs to go. It's important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a Cindy Agee here? Okay, thank you. So the next group of 5 that I have is Chris Volstad, Sarah Mercer, Austin Fott. Mylan Quicken? And Becky and Ms. James.
All right, hi, I'm Sarah Mercer. I do swim in the Comal, so I would consider myself an affected party, but I know that is a loose definition that you guys use. Well, we've already identified that there's not an operator identified for this, but let's just say hypothetically it is SJWTX. I am curious if TCEQ has looked at their compliance history. We have our enforcement guy over here. I think somebody mentioned odor on 46. Well, are you guys familiar with vintage oaks at the vineyard? The reason I ask is because this particular wastewater treatment plant is owned by Texas Water Company, but not really Texas Water Company. This particular facility was under an enforcement order by these folks here in October 2021, and they were ordered to fix their crap. Well, turns out since that time, there have been 28 complaints of odor. 4 investigations. Nothing has happened. So I ask, have you guys considered the compliance history as required by code? Because if you have, you've found that Mr. Harrison has never operated a wastewater treatment plant, and SJWTX does not meet the standards of many, if not all but one, of their wastewater permits, and most of those aren't even 5 years old. So I'd like you guys to consider that. Also, the application's inaccurate. You guys tell us, well, this is preliminary approved, pending whatever we decide. Who's reading this thing? There's 2 locations on it, on the same page. One is 21 miles away from here in Kendall County, and it says Bulverde, Texas. You guys aren't even reading this stuff. I just don't even know what to say. Okay. Did you know that there is also 14 possibly endangered and threatened species in this area? So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has a tool where you can actually map the path of the discharge, which I have done by 1 mile, and I have generated a letter, which I've submitted with my comments, that identifies these species. So I asked you guys, have you met the requirements of Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act? Also, you've heard a lot about the caves around here. Well, those caves are proof of active geological processes by TCEQ's own definition. This includes erosion and dissolution, and there's also aquifers underneath. This is an unsuitable location for a facility. And I will also back that up by saying it is also in a floodplain. The facility itself borders the floodplain in the buffer zone, and the actual water that goes into the creek will increase the flood water. So does this meet the requirements by FEMA and the federal insurance requirements, the flood insurance requirements? Have you guys reviewed that? So I'd like to hear more about that in your responses. And then finally, this charge would result in the derogation of all West Fork of Dry Comal Creek, and Comal River watersheds, including the Edwards Aquifer. All of these bodies of waters have studies related to them. One of them you funded, Comal Watershed Protection Plan. So thank you for that grant. Sounds like it's going to good use. The other one is the EAPP, where they've done modeling of discharge over the Edwards Aquifer contributing zone, and it has shown that these contaminants will result in the aquifer becoming contaminated. Please consider these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you Chris Bolstad?
I'm not, I'm Austin Farr.
Is there a Chris Bolstad here? No? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, my name's Austin Fott. I'm the chairman of Dry Comal Creek Neighbors. I'd like to start by making an offer to Mr. Harrison's team to negotiate a settlement that says you'll do 100% beneficial reuse. There's precedent for negotiating a settlement like that, and our group would be eager to get our lawyers and engineers together to make that happen. My family and neighbors have serious concerns about the negative effects of permitting construction of a wastewater facility here. Some of us who are affected have united as concerned citizens under the name of Dry Comal Creek Neighbors. Our mission is to protect the Dry Comal Creek and the homes alongside it. We oppose the Harrison Tract Wastewater Treatment Facility permit and ask you to decline it. Numerous of us in this group are bordering the property on the southern side. So we are immediately downstream of the discharge. You've heard from Erin Bell and a little bit about her business. The rest of us who comprise this group are neighbors of Erin, some of whom border Mr. Harrison's property. And we have formally asked to be recognized as an affected party collectively as a group. We have numerous members who are, of course, individually affected. Our primary issue, number one, is that the project's located over the Edwards Aquifer contributing zone. We have especially feel concerned about the caves, which obviously there's a lack of knowledge of. I've been in a lot of the caves that are immediately south of the property, and they are stunning. In fact, in my notes here, I've described that some of the caves and caverns found on the adjacent properties to the south resemble the upper levels of Natural Bridge caverns. They are fascinating. I'd also like to mention that the San Antonio River Authority in July of 2020 commissioned a study by the Southwest Research Institute. And in that study, the conclusion, in summary, said, quote, they predicted that installing additional wastewater systems in the region, regardless of type, would increase the amount of wastewater discharge to the environment and significantly degrade the watershed and the quality of water recharging the Edwards Aquifer. That's a quote from Dr. Ronald Green, who was the technical advisor and project manager. So I'd like to point you to that Southwest Research Institute of July 2020. Issue number two for us is that many of us rely on private water wells. There's data that suggests there's 48 water wells within a very short distance of the discharge, 43 of which are used for household purposes. Most of us on the south side are included in that group. Some of us have water wells within 50 feet of the dry canal, so we're very concerned about the discharge affecting our drinking water, particularly since there seems to be no regulatory guidance on the pharmaceuticals, microplastics, and personal health care elements that we mentioned earlier. So we'd like additional data on that. I need to mention this one. I'm going to skip a few things, but another really important issue that I'm not sure you're aware of is that immediately downstream, once this creek passes through Miss Bell's property, it will cross over the Shearer Road, which is a privately maintained road that, if it's true that less than an inch of constant flow will be coming down the creek, that road will wash out, and there are multiple neighbors who depend upon that crossing point to get to their homes. That road will wash out. We already have that issue when it floods, and so you need to be aware that the road and access is potentially an issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi y'all, my name is Milan Googie. You only screwed it up a little bit. Anyway, I live at 30954 FM 309 in New Braunfels, Texas. I am requesting a contested case hearing as an affected person. I've already put it in writing and all that kind of fun stuff as well. I have submitted written comment on 2 separate occasions and spoke to why the Harrison Tract wastewater treatment facilities should be denied and why I should be considered an AP. So for my oral comment, I will speak to what type of wastewater treatment facility would be the most environmentally protective of our area, the Dry Creek Water Basin, the aquifers, and the Texas Hill Country. A lot of what I'm going to talk about has already been discussed today, so excuse the redundancy. But first I want to speak to intent. I've known Mr. Harrison Doug for a pretty long time, and I hate to be on the other side of the fence from him, but I'm not happy with his decision. Mr. Harrison described high-density development as his quote-unquote last preference on the list of possibilities for the land, and further stated that if he's told that he would love to find somebody to just come in and buy the whole ranch as is and enjoy it, love it, and use it just the way they have. It's a beautiful ranch. We'd love to see it be something else. But at the end of the day, we're going to do what's best for my family. he's taken. He's crossed off selling the ranch as a whole and leaving it unscathed. He instead followed the path for the highest profits, offering the land to the highest bidder for a high-density development with entitlements that include the wastewater treatment facility. There are much better options for development of this wonderful ranch. I've seen it. It's absolutely a beautiful ranch. They're more environmentally viable. One of these things is called the use of conservation developments. That's low density developments, fewer houses on larger lots with less than the amount of wastewater discharge over a larger area. And it doesn't require a TPDES. There's also another subdivision or another big division called low impact developments. That's a conservation development versus a large lot development. Basically what it does is it minimizes fragmentation of acreage and allows for more green space. Those are two types of developments that can be used. Another area that can be addressed is decrease the permitted wastewater discharge to the amount required to facilitate only the size of this development and not oversized to accommodate for future development. Precedence was set in Meyer Ranch Mud, where the TPDS includes the 210 beneficial reuse authorization, and I'm glad to hear that y'all are talking about it. And what I gave y'all, and what I've given y'all, is the Meyer Ranch settlement and the act that Mr. Harris spoke of earlier. I just wanted y'all to have a copy of it. The TPDS was revised to reflect the obligations, limitations, and design changes to the permit arbitrated by all the parties involved. And so, this is something I think that y'all, with Austin saying that he would like to do a settlement, I think it's something that can be looked at. And as far as enforcement, I just want to make a real quick thing. Legislatively, SB 471 is on the governor's desk. So when our neighbors start complaining about odors, our neighbors start complaining to UTCEQ, and we do it 28 times, are we going to be fined because we made a complaint? Because that's what SB 471 on the governor's desk right now.
Thank you.
My name is Becky James. I live at 30838 FN 3009. I request a contested case hearing and to be named an affected person. My property is at the lowest point of the Durst Ranch, a little over 2 miles downhill from Mr. Harrison's proposed subdivision. I am concerned about water pollution from the dumping of wastewater because of a very large culvert pipe under 3009 that opens just outside of my front fence. Having lived here for 20 years, we've experienced the water runoff from that pipe drenching the ground over our water well as it runs to the creek bed at the back of our property. I am worried about polluting the water for my family that depends on well water, my pets who spend much time outdoors, and the wildlife who drink from the creek, including gray foxes, white-tailed deer, rabbits, raccoons, and squirrels, as well as countless types of birds. We built our home in the country to enjoy nature, and we want to protect it. We are responsible landowners and maintain an efficient septic system to treat waste and reuse the water for safe purposes. I would hope that Mr. Harrison would at least propose the same. I request that TCEQ deny this permit.
Thank you. So the next group of 5 that I have is Tim Cronin, Aaron Bell, Tody Sindelar, Pam Reeds, and Nathan Glowy. What's your name again?
Aaron Bell.
Aaron Bell. Okay, let me check real quick. Is there a Tim Cronin here? No? Okay, you can go ahead.
hearing as an affected party. I run a unique breeding and horse training farm with unique in that there's no one around for 20 miles doing this, and if we change the agriculture of the land, the ecology from a dry creek and you add a ½ inch of moisture into that creek, yes, the ½ inch of moisture that's always dry is now incapable of equine existence. Horses cannot stand in a moist environment. It not only creates fungus and on their legs and their feet, but I cannot use the land if there's moisture in the land. I bought a dry creek, not a moist creek, and when it floods, and it will flood to the point, while we have a power outage, while the sewage system doesn't work, it's gonna flood my creek, and it's gonna damage that. And then we have caves on our land, with their direct access to the Edwards Aquifer, huge, beautiful caves that are very close, and then the watershed of this development. It also affects the public opinion. If I have this sewage plant really against my border, it's against the border of my property, my clients are less inclined to board with me. I will lose business knowing that there's sewage on my land and my animals, I know it's treated sewage, but I have genes that are more receptive to getting cancer, and the hormones and the birth control that's going through that water will give me cancer. And it's a fact, my doctor told me. So these are the things we gotta be aware of, that you're affecting us. I can't change. You guys can help me, protect me. That's what y'all's job is. And the solution to pollution is dilution. You know what I'm trying to say. But if right now we have no water in the creek, and then you add just the effluent, I know it, you could, but they lick it. My dog drinks the water, I drink the water. Like the kid, my 2-year-old plays in that water, so there's only effluent in Dry Creek. That's a problem because it's a dry creek. That's what I'm trying to say. And if that effluent is, and this is limestone, limestone's soft stone, and you put the water there, you're gonna cause breakdown faster. So if it's always moist, we weaken the topography of the land. And that's limestone, that's the erosion, I guess. But that erosion, are you considering that? Because it's always moist. These are things, and then the cumulative effect, we're gonna be against a quarry. This isn't the only subdivision. In fact, everything is gonna be subdivided here really soon. And you guys have to look at the bigger picture. Thank you. And the smell.
Thank you. Is there a Tony similar?
I signed up in the wrong section.
Okay.
I signed up in the wrong section too, but I'm gonna speak again.
What's your name?
Pam Wright.
Did you already sign out a form?
Yes, I did.
So I'll go ahead.
You called my name, remember?
Say your name again, please.
Pam Wright.
Right, okay, perfect.
Okay. Okay, I have enough. Is this not a question? If y'all are not answering questions now, is that?
Not at this time, no. During this point is a formal comment session, so people will come up and ask local comments.
Figures these things out.
Well, ask the question so that they are on record.
I'm going to.
There you go.
Dang. All right. Some of the fastest growing and most prosperous areas of the hill country already prohibit the discharge of any effluent into streams and rivers. The TCEQ created and enforces specific no discharge rules to protect both the Highland Lakes.
I'm sorry, could you move closer to the microphone, please? Just to make sure you get it on the recording.
Sure. To protect both the Highland Lakes and the recharge zones of the Edwards Aquifer in order to allow growth whilst also protecting valuable water sources. While these rules cover the recharge zone, they do not extend to the contributing zone of the Edwards Aquifer, despite the fact that water quality in the contributing zone directly impacts the quality of the water recharging the aquifer. That's that.
Thank you. Is there a Nathan Flowey here?
Close.
My name is Nathan Glavy. I serve as a technical director for the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance, GIA for short, located here in San Antonio. We are a nonprofit organization comprised of 56 member groups that strive for the protection and preservation of the Greater Edwards Aquifer area and the Texas Hill Country lands that sustains it. Today I'm here to represent GIA and our member groups to submit comments for the record. I also like to state that GIA has submitted written requests for affected party status to help represent our member groups affected by this, and also like to contest a request against the case hearing regarding this permit application itself. For the record, I like to submit the following concerns. We have mentioned a capacity for beneficial reuse, and I express excitement that the applicant has talked about this, but I'd like to hold more teeth to the action and actually see the paperwork for this Chapter 210 permit being applied, tied in with this application, and actually hold you to also following the type designation you're going to be treating it to. So in this case, it is close human contact interaction, and we type 1 usage as well. Also was noted about the impacts of surrounding wells. A lot of my research is done with available data with the Texas Water Development Board. There are 48 wells within a 1.5-mile distance within the Harrison's Tract distance discharge point. Out of these 43 wells are flagged for domestic household purposes. Therefore, the volume of wells located in this close proximity to the discharge point en route poses a serious concern of cross-contamination with the local groundwater supply that these well owners heavily rely on to meet their needs. Also, I'd like to mention, hasn't really been talked about, maybe not directly tied to this permit application, but stormwater concerns are also worth noting, especially with development of this size, as it's noted to be almost 1,400 homes, and the size of this homes would promote a lot of stormwater runoff, and especially with this close proximity to the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone. Lastly, my last point is talking more about the water quality itself. According to the 2022 Texas Integrated Report, which is a TCQ reviewing and summarizing the Texas surface waters, both the dry Comal Creek and Comal River, which are the slate of receiving water bodies for this application, have been flagged as an impaired water body, meaning these water bodies' water quality does not meet water quality standards under the Clean Water Act. A watershed protection plan, however, has been developed for the dry Comal Creek and Comal River to help address these noted impairments. And since 2018, when the WPP was received EPA approval, best management practices have been implemented to improve the water quality and quantity across this region, because this plan realized the importance of these water bodies have on the economic, recreation, and agriculture interests in this area. Therefore, GIA would like to encourage for the protection and preservation of these two water bodies and does not support activities that further degrade the water quality in this region. The TCQ has previously stated that in evaluating wastewater permits, they consider baseline conditions in the receiving streams, the physical and hydrologic characteristics of these said streams, water body uses, and the associated water quality standards for these uses. Therefore, we want to give TCQ more teeth to really consider the stated factors when ultimately deciding this permit. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next group of people that I have is Wendell Cannon, Linda Moore, Debbie Williams-Bell, Helen and Danny Lambert, Don Fratkin, and Rachel Cannon.
I'm up here twice, Wendell Cannon, and I'm requesting affected party status in the hearing that will be forthcoming. There's been a lot of comments on, what's going to happen with the 1,400 houses. But the main thing that I think everybody is missing or becoming aware of is water's going to flow. Whether it's clean or unclean is an argument, but it's flowing into creeks that have already been declared by TCEQ, the Comal south of CMEX, as an unclean or a affected status. So this is just going to exacerbate an already problematic area, because the creeks, now that they're dry, when they become wet, then all that affected water is going to flow into the Comal. And that's going to affect, because of the flow, that's going to affect the water at New Braunfels. So you're gonna have to think a little bit deeper than just the clean water. If it's flowing, and if it's flowing by my property, then floodwaters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are going to contribute much more to the disaster situation that could develop in New Braunfels at the Coal Mile Springs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I talk? My name is Holly Moore, and I live across the street from this school. This is the third one of these that I have been to, and what I've found is the hearings are not real transparent. Like, how did y'all find out about this hearing? I mean, it's just kind of, you know, a little bit of word of mouth, having to read something on Nextdoor. I would like to see a better communication with the people in the area. And we have papers here in Bulverde, believe it or not, that are not the Herald Zeitung, and they're not the San Antonio News. We do have Bulverde and Spring Branch papers that could be advertised. These hearings could be advertised in. And I'm sorry, I was a little insulted when somebody up there said, well, we're here at the contested hearing. Well, gee, I am so glad that you graced us with your presence. I just thought it was your job, but never mind. Anyway, the whole contested hearing thing. I want everybody here, if they haven't been here before, I was a teacher for many years, to understand that if enough people do not request a contested hearing, this is it. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. There will be no further than this right here. So, how many people does it take to get a contested hearing?
Right now, we're not answering questions. This is to response to comments. Come at a later time.
All right, okay. So, I want everybody to know, and don't tell me, because what y'all do is, the contested hearing, blah, 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 contested hearing, blah, 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 contested hearing, you go over that. I know that you tried to talk about the contested hearing, but even I was confused after that. If you fill out this piece of paper and check the bottom and say, I want a contested hearing, is that enough?
Yes. I just did it.
Thank you for the peanut gallery. TCEQ did it. So, everybody here, be sure and fill out this piece of paper, check the bottom, and say you want a contested hearing. That is my biggest thing. They're here to protect us, but at the contested hearing and any hearings after that and in court, look to see who TCEQ is sitting with, talking to, and laughing with. It is certainly not the people of Texas and the community that they are here to protect.
Thank you. Next I have Debbie Williams-Bell.
Hello. I'm a affected party that owns the property where the Wastewater first comes into my property from the Harrison Ranch, so I will be directly affected by this wastewater.
Can you say your name real quick for the
I'm
record?
Deborah, or Debbie Williams-Bell, I'm on the paper there.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm an agriculture operator. I have livestock. They get in the water. I have a lot of pets. They get in the water. I have an 87-year-old grandma. My mother lives there with me. I have grandchildren that play in the water. I play in the water. We all get wet with this water. We drink the water. We have wells right there, not far from where it apparently was from that underwater river above the West Fork, you know? I mean, it might be considered dry, but there is water under there. That's how I got water from my wells, and it will be affected by the effluent that's in this, going to be released into the water. I'm concerned about the possible carcinogens and other biohazards that are going to be not regulated, and the regulation that will occur infrequently. Those are a lot of my concerns there. Once again, I have karst land. I've had a geologist come out and said I'm right there on the Caner Formation. Talk about caves. I have sinkholes. There's large crevices in the rocks that go to who knows where. I mean, you can have a garden hose and it just goes and goes and goes, and it's not cracked ground. This is rock formation that is open, that may open into a cave. I don't know what's underneath these rocks. The limestone and these all concern me that this is going to be polluting, and this water will go into the Edwards Aquifer, not just affecting me and my family, my personal livelihood, but all of San Antonio even. I mean, there's a lot of people that this will be affecting. And I'm concerned about the floodwater runoff. It's, you're not going to have the same absorption of the groundwater, when you have 1,400 homes. It's all going to go into this tank that's with the effluent when it rains, and then it all comes down the creek when it floods and doesn't just stay in this little dry creek area. It's going to go all over. What about our plants, our grass that I seed to feed our livestock with, and just in general, the trees I see when the water is flowing. Now we have frogs and salamanders, and there's birds, and like other people said, I don't know what's exotic or threatened or private, types of animals that are threatened, that could easily be things, salamanders. I've seen all sorts of really cool things there in this creek that I don't want to change. And I don't think it's appropriate that someone that lives upstream from me, of a dry creek that's not even a flowing creek, that doesn't have a stream, can affect my life. I don't think that it should be able to do that. I don't think any water flowing should be an acceptable issue. So anyways, I request a contested case hearing as an affected person. I wish Comal County would be a lot more environmentally conscious of all developments, not just right here, but all of Comal County. And all of Texas needs to be a lot more environmentally conscious of what happens. You can't be putting wastewater stations out in the middle of the country. But anyways, it's green.
Thank you. Next I have Helen and Danny Lammer. Can you get closer to the microphone, please?
What?
Can you get closer to the microphone?
You couldn't hear me.
Well, it's for our records. If I can't hear you through the speakers and the recorder can't pick you up.
I speak loudly so you will be able to hear me, okay?
Okay.
First of all, some of my comments are not up to par because I didn't know some of the information that was released today. So I apologize for that. Shikadance, Eager, Zurcher, Frobazy probably means little to the majority of you present this evening. Those are my ancestors who established our family ranch, which has been in the family for more than 150 years. More than 150 years. Today, our family ranch is owned by Frobazys, Coons, and Lammerts. But to me, it will always be known as the Zurcher Ranch in honor of my grandfather and great-grandfather. The ranch was their heart and soul. Today, it is being threatened once again by a water permit releasing 600,000 gallons of treated water every day into the dry Canal Creek, which bisects our ranch. This decision threatens the quality and quantity of our water in our 5 private water wells, as
well as the water flowing downstream to New Braunfels. Is this treated water safe for cattle, goats, dogs, chickens? If it's safe, why not use the treated water to water the lawns or other uses in the subdivision, which you have asked or said that would occur? So why are we even here? Reuse it and leave the water release out of the canal, dry canal creek alone. Our family ranch is home to several caves. I personally was in one cave in 1973, going down by a rope ladder 60 feet to dry rocks and bat guano. Last year, this old lady, I once again entered the cave using more modern equipment from our local grotto club. My hope was to see a beautiful waterfall discovered by my nephew John. My ultimate goal was to see the waterfall and to drink a sip of pure water. As my nephew had stated, it was some of the best water he tasted. When I finally got close to my goal, I felt going down a narrow opening and then using a rope to get to the faith room, which is beautiful, as named by my nephew, was more than my strength could endure. I didn't make it to that fresh, clean water he's spoken of. What will this release do to that groundwater, to our caves? I ask you tonight. Speaking of the water flow, what will the releases do to our fences? Evidently, it's not going to come gushing through, but it's going to have an inch. And it's going to cover quite a few acres of our ranch. So are we going to have this odor? I'm not sure how many in this audience have built fence, but my family has. One of the more difficult sections to fence is the areas that cross the creek beds, like the dry canal and the sea blow. We call them water gaps and have to bust rock to create holes for the permanent fence posts and string up sections of fence that are designed to blow open during the times when the water comes down the creeks, such as heavy rains and floods. Will these releases create a need for constant fence repair? Has TCEQ ever built a fence? Will they come try? Will you come fix our fences after every release? Or I guess now they're going to be standing in water. Or have they not even considered the impacts this plant will have on the surrounding area? In the name of my grandfather and my father, in the name of my grandfather and great-grandfather, vote against the permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person I have is Don Fredkin.
Hello, my name is Dawn Fredkin. I'm a veterinarian. I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to go really fast since I only have 3 minutes.
Can you move a little bit closer to the microphone? Thank you.
My question is, or questions are, as far as this effluent, I would like to know the total coliform and fecal coliform contents that are allowable in the effluent. I would like to know the effect of the microplastics and drug residues in addition to the fecal coliform counts and total coliform counts, their effects on humans and child development, contact with skin, eyes, lungs. I would also like to know the effect on production animals. How does it affect their fertility, their milk production, their egg production, their meat, is the meat consumable? I would also like to know the study that was done, that was cited in the permit, stating that there was no aquatic life in any of the tributary creeks leading to the Canal River. Who conducted the study, what materials and methods were used, and where is a copy of that study available? I would also like to know what the effluent is compared to aerobic septic discharge, because aerobic septic discharge cannot be in contact with human eyes, mucous membranes, or skin. It smells to high heaven, and you can't graze animals on it. And I have one with 13 employees. This is a development of 1,300 homes with over 5,000 people pooping every day. I would also like to know, how did TCEQ and EPA determine that this draft permit meets all statutory requirements when an operator wasn't even listed? I would also like to know what the guarantees are for this operator for future maintenance of this permit if it is approved. Looking at the Rock and J Ranch in Blanco, Texas, where the developer and the operator both failed and abandoned the system and left the entire subdivision without water treatment. So now they have to have a pump truck come in every week, an 18-wheeler sized pump truck. So just based on what happened to the scooter store people, I'm not very optimistic about what's going to happen with this permit. So, I also would like to point out that there is no other dressage barn in Comal County. It's a female-owned business. It's Erin Bell's life. It's what she's spent her whole life building this business. They went to the end of a 2.5-mile crappy dirt road to get as far away from people as possible so that they could live their life and live their dream and provide dressage training for people like me, people like Dr. Bonner, and a lot of people in this room. If you take that away from us and you take that away from her, there's nobody else around here offering that. It's an art form. It's the highest art form of horsemanship. It's been around for 500 years. You're going to take that away from all of us. Don't do that. And if you don't know the answers to all my medical questions, if it's not your department, if you're not sure, if it's under study, if you have any doubts whatsoever, if you can't give us those assurances that we're going to be safe, that it's not going to affect immune-compromised people, chemotherapy patients, radiation patients, anybody that's immune-compromised, what's going to happen? If you don't know the answer, please err on the side of caution and deny this permit. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person I have is Rachel Cannon.
Hello, my name is Rachel Cannon, and I live on 1710 Shear Road, which is just 3 properties above Miss Erin Bell's property. As previously discussed, you stated that if a human were to, say, swallow a little bit of this treated water, it would be fine. However, I feel that TCEQ has neglected to think about the other creatures that rely on the Comal River, not only the Comal River, but many other private water sources present in the dumping area. The pollutants, microplastics for example, can cause inflammation and scarring in the digestive tracts of birds and other animals. If you lived in the affected area, then you would know that birds such as golden-streaked warblers, which are on the endangered species list, are present and populous in this area. These animals are protected under the ESA, the Endangered Species Act, which they've been under since 1990. Not only will endangered species such as this be affected, but other native animals and livestock will be directly affected by something as necessary as drinking water. These issues don't go away with intentions or promises that may or may not be upheld. I'm not an environmental activist, but I believe in protecting the abundant natural beauty that is all around us. In the end, this isn't just about about some potentially foul-smelling water. This is about people's livelihoods, their animals, their homes, and the God-given beauty of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, that is everyone who has signed up to provide oral comments. Is there anybody else who has not yet provided some that would like to do so now? Okay, so I'll go ahead and start to close this meeting. I would like to thank everyone for being here with us today, as well as to thank Representative Isaac's staff, applicant staff, and TCEQ staff. As noted, a final decision has not been made on the application. The agency staff will review formal comments provided during this meeting, as well as the comments received through the mail, fax, and e-comments before making a final decision. The response to comments will be sent to those who are on the mailing list and those who submitted written and oral comments. I would like to reiterate that tonight is your last chance to provide formal close of this meeting, but it is not your last chance to ask questions. We will be here for a few more minutes as we pack up if there are any follow-up questions. If there are any written comments or other documents that you would like to provide, please either give them to me or drop them off at the registration table at the back of the room. This will close the public meeting of the Douglas T. Harrison permit number WQ0016211001. I hope everyone has a safe drive home and a good night.